Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Trucking right along, boys. This is Rhit Moore, past master and current secretary of Fort Worth 148.
This is Gabriel Jagush, Master Mason with Fort Worth Lodge 148.
This is Wier, current Junior Warden with Fort Worth 148.
Glad to have you on the show, Will.
Thanks again for having me, guys. This is absolute pleasure to be involved with you all once again.
Today we brought Will on because he is very involved in the Big Brother program that we have running at the Lodge, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's been something that we've implemented at our Lodge and enjoyed the results of quite a bit.
Yeah, thought we'd give it a talk. And, you know, we're trying to get a good schedule because these podcasts take a little time to record and then edit as well. So we're trying to get ahead of that. And Brother Grant was busy tonight, so Brother Will, he stepped right up.
Sub,
that's it.
As they say.
Pro Tem host. That's a good way to put it. All right. What do we got going on in news this week, Gabe?
All righty. So, in Temple news, Fort Worth 148 had a master's degree on Monday for our brother Mark. I'm going to withhold his last name for now because I forgot to ask him if it was okay to give his full name on the podcast. But, you know, we raised Mark to the sublime degree of a Master Mason. It was great. We got multiple brothers playing parts that were new to them, if we want to put it that way. And it was super cool. A lot of the guys showed a huge amount of flexibility in just learning parts really fast. And it was a killer degree. It was great. And we're really looking forward to watching and helping Mark on his journey as our newest Master Mason. So congrats to Mark. That'll be a lot of fun. In local news, the Fort Worth Scottish Rite Gun Club had a great time at the North Richland Hills location of Total Shooting Sports. I believe they're planning another shoot sometime in June. That event is not restricted to Masters, EAs, fellow crafts. Feel free to come along and bring a friend. And we'll update y'all with more details as they come out. In national news, the Shriners Hospitals have developed a arthritis vaccine. This is really going to benefit kids with juvenile arthritis, and it's designed to fight arthritis using stem cells modified for autonomous regenerative therapy. It's also known as SMART cells, I think. But the human clinical trials are still a few years away, but the end goal is to grow living bone, living cartilage, and so forth, and all of that tissue would be resistant to arthritis. So not only would they grow new parts for these kids, but they would also grow new body parts that would be resistant to the disease that they have. So if you want to check out more info on this, check out shrinershospitalsforchildren.org. It's pretty cool stuff. Solomon, Kansas. A man has been arrested for the embezzlement of over $150,000 from the Salina County Masonic Temple Foundation. He was hired as the foundation's treasurer last July and began embezzling funds only a few months later. Suspicions arose in early April and were quickly investigated. The police have stated that the individual in question was using foundation funds for airplane trips, hotel stays, and subscriptions to pornographic websites. Additionally, he had also been writing checks to himself and to a regalia business that he owned. So remember, folks, guard your Westgate. Some bad stuff can go down. In news abroad, the Masonic Temple in Windsor, Nova Scotia, Canada, has suffered a break-in. The whole place was ransacked, and a charity box for the Shriners Children's Hospitals was looted. There was broken glass everywhere, and a bunch of cupboards and cabinets and display cases and that kind of stuff were damaged. But nobody was hurt, which is good. The RCMP are on the case, and if you're a Canadian listener and you learn something helpful about this case, please contact them at I think that's the Crime Stoppers line. It's 1-800-222-8477. In New York City, New York, America, the Grand Lodge of New York, F&AM, has suspended recognition of the Grand Lodge of Scotland, AF&AM. This happened during their annual communication, which was this past Monday, and it's due to an issue that they are having with the Grand Lodge of Scotland in the country of Lebanon. So Lebanon has no Grand Lodge of its own anyway, and because of that, there's almost 20 Grand Lodges operating there. And 2 of those are New York and Scotland. So 3 guys who had been expelled from the Grand Lodge of New York joined the Grand Lodge of Scotland in Lebanon. The straw that kind of broke the camel's back is that the Grand Lodge of Scotland is currently in the process of getting these guys involved at the Grand Officer level in this provincial Grand Lodge of the Grand Lodge of Scotland. Something kind of similar happened in 2008 when the Grand Lodge of New York suspended and eventually restored recognition of the Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia. New York was claiming that Lebanon was their exclusive territory and they didn't like that DC was operating in it. It's a longer story, but kind of a similar issue. Not really similar, but similar enough. There's a really interesting response from the Grand Lodge of DC to the Grand Lodge of New York regarding that particular incident in 2008, and you can find that on Chris Hodap's website, Freemasons for Dummies. It's a really interesting read, and kind of an interesting quasi-parallel to all of this. Well, and then, so moving on to questions, this is more of a question that I actually had, because I was witnessing an interesting online interaction between some Masons that got asked a question. And in general, so this is not just restricted to online behavior, but what would you say is the most common form of unacceptable behavior that you see from men that you would call brother?
It's the way things come across. You know, just the other day, I was totally had the impression from somebody's post that they're trying to belittle somebody, and I called him out for it. He's like, that was totally not my intentions. So, I talk to my wife about it all the time, that we talk with facial expressions and hand gestures, and, a good part of our language that we speak is in tones and facial expressions, and you can't convey that through Facebook. So God forbid you try to be sarcastic, because it just doesn't come across. Even with emoticons, it gets taken out of context and then somebody runs with it. Although there are times when people are demeaning, and it's a improper use of the medium, in my opinion. We have such opportunity with Facebook and different social medias to have good discussions.
Yeah, you feel like you fall into what is so much out there already. You feel like you're just falling right into the different rooms that you're a part of, the different groups, the different things, and it just, you fall right. We're supposed to be something different, something a little bit more focused, a little bit more composed, a little bit more.
And instead we act like everybody else online. Yeah,
and you kind of just then you just kind of you get into whatever this what's the word I'm looking for? Not rhythm, but that, just that getting caught in that environment, and how you've been instilled, and how, you're just surrounded by what's influenced, and how it is in so other many places. You just let that kind of influence the way that you are quick to jab and quick to,
exactly,
your comebacks, and
you get that battle mentality.
Yeah, my age group, we grew up in the AOL chat rooms, and the worst thing is when you'd be in there and somebody'd say something and you're sitting there trying to type your response and they've already said 3 other things, in the meantime, and so you had to be quick, you had to learn, and it feels like,
or somebody says something very explosive and then the chat just goes berserk the entire time. Because all it takes is one person to say one thing, and then all of a sudden the chat log explodes.
No, and I know a lot of guys who take sabbaticals from Facebook, and I laid off of it quite a bit because, it didn't matter what you posted. There was never a good discussion to follow, because I was around before Facebook was a big thing in Freemasonry, and we used online forums, and there was like a glory here. It's similar to Reddit, but they would have private forums for Masons, and it was a little more tiled, and there were a lot more civil discussions in the beginning days of it when it was smaller groups, But as it grew, it would just get toxic, and it's just like I'm done with that. And I see it in Facebook now as well. Every once in a while you have a good discussion to where guys are being Masons, they're being open-minded. Doesn't mean you have to change your mind. You just have to be open.
Yeah.
And you hear guys just like, oh, that's silly, you shouldn't do it that way, or you need to be doing this, or and it's like, we're having a discussion here. Let's hit high points. Let's not turn into the Colonel.
Yeah. Because online, one of the things that you can really exacerbate things with is that there's not often a name or a face to the name online, right?
Yeah.
Because, yes, Facebook, you've got the faces and everything like that, and it's usually tied to somebody's real identity, but a lot of times on forums and things like that, it's just an account name that you're talking to, and things get out of hand pretty quick.
No, that's funny you say that, because especially on one of the groups, Masonic Worldwide, you get a lot of people that come in that you just know either they're irregular Masons or they're not Masons at all, and they just say the darndest things, and it gets a storm started.
to stir the pot, to get Masons going.
Yeah, there was one not too long ago where a guy just went in and put literally one sentence: I think we should drop the requirement for the belief in God, something to that sense. And it was like people took the bait. It was hardcore. There was if it would have led to good discussion, great.
Are you talking about it like something specific on a forum, or are you talking about the Facebook post that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it was a Facebook post. It was like 2 months ago.
That lasted for days. People were so upset.
And it's like it's not even an argument. Yeah. Our whole obligation becomes not if there's nobody that's going to hold you to it, because we're not going to do it. We're not going to literally, play out our obligation. It's all about you being held accountable by your higher power.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole deal with the dropping requirements, because what kind of spurred this question on for me was somebody that posted in a forum asking, hey, I am biologically female, but I identify as male, right? Is there a place in Masonry for me, right? And regardless of whether or not we agree or disagree or think of this as a possibility or whatever, the key is to be civil about it, right? Because that is sort of a sensitive topic, right? Somebody that's suffering from gender dysphoria, that's kind of a serious issue.
but it is a relevant topic in today's society, and what is becoming more and more mainstream. Yeah, it's an issue that's no longer just put to the side, and you hear no evil, see no evil, type of deal. It's something that is now. You've got these examples. You've got things in the that are out in the public eye that these are topics that
right, and it's going to come up. It's a fair question to ask, but the dialogue that occurred in the comments of that post was so toxic that this person that asked the question ended up going back to their original post, and they edited their post, and they said, hey, you know what? I was kind of interested initially, but if these are the kind of people that are Masons, then I'm really not interested in joining Masonry. And because there were people that were just incredibly vitriolic, not towards the original poster for asking that question, which like, hey, like you can be you can be a hardliner with your requirements or whatever and say absolutely none of this, none of that, whatever, right? But you can do it respectfully. And there were people there that were like, saying that this person was suffering from make-believe syndrome, that well, I identify as a helicopter, things like that. Stuff that is just not, it's
not productive. It's not, it's like you said, it's demeaning, it's belittling, it's taking someone and just, pushing aside, their humanity, their thoughts and processes, their feelings, something that we're supposed to, and we're bound to look after,
Yeah. And even if we don't think this person should be a Mason, which, if you have a reason for thinking so and you can justify that, then go ahead. You're free to think whatever, right? But we should always treat each other with respect or civility or whatever. It's like you say, the demeaning portion of it, and
absolutely. I mean, should any person at any time, more especially a brother, but any person, what's harder to understand, that this is something that you've taken upon yourself, a role that you have stepped off in that direction to where this is what you're standing for, something bigger than yourself. That everything I do is going to, for the good of this establishment, that's been made with these chief strength and supports. We're working towards something much bigger than our own reactionary emotions and things of that sort, And
yeah. Well, I mean, that's what relief is all about, is empathy. And, there will come a time to where that issue will have to be hashed out by Masons, to where, at some point or another, somebody's going to try to join, and there's going to have to be a decision made on that. And you vote your conscience. But at the same time, when a question's like that posed on Facebook, you've got to have empathy. You don't have to agree, and if you can feel something toxic welling up in you, go on to the next thread.
Yeah.
And
this is really relevant for me right now because I've been working on learning the charge for the master's degree. And, it's written, anybody that wants to go look it up can look up the Master Mason's charge. But, you say to support the dignity of your character on all occasions, And when you are acting vitriolic and you are projecting yourself in an image that makes others think, hey, Masonry is filled with hateful people like this, then you're not conducting, you're not supporting the dignity of your character, and you are not preserving unsullied the reputation of the fraternity. So it's just one of those things that has been messing with me for a couple of days.
And I can think of several Masons that I still hold them in high esteem, but I see some of the things they put on Facebook, and it's just like chipping away. And I try really hard not to let it happen, because I know we're in our infancy when it comes to things like social media and how to make it work and communicate. We're just getting started, even with the generation like Will that grew up with it. We're still figuring it out. So I try not to hold it against them too much, but some of the things they post, it's just like,
but at the same time, you've got to be able to circumscribe those passions within due bounds in all arenas. You can't just because you've got the outlet to be able to type these things out instead of say it to someone, doesn't give you the excuse to be able to do it.
No, it's not a place to flex your prowess. It's a place to share light and, sharing joy and good things. And sure, you're going to have to weed through food pictures, but, somebody checking in at some silly spot, it's all in good time. But when it comes to those Facebook for Masonic stuff where we're trying to have discussions and grow the craft, it just doesn't do any good to get on there and, flex your mental prowess on everybody in a way that doesn't come across of spreading light. But that's the thing. You've got to, we've got to learn to use it in a better way, those forums, because there's such good potential for them. And when we get on there and we start calling each other out for everything we're doing wrong, it's just silly. We've got to, whisper with good counsel and admonish with justice, all those things that we're told in those charges and degrees.
Sometimes you really just want to take somebody's side and yell at them, though. But, compasses and all that.
No, and it's so easy, to take something out of context. Of course, a lot of things are written in context and they're, very bad. You just got to go past it, because that'll suck the life out of you.
Right. And there's so much of it. You're absolutely right. You can just get lost in it in a heartbeat. But you've got to have the ability that if you feel that passionate, emotional response, move along, You
got it. Go find something that you get, lost in. Go find a cat video.
Yeah. Cat videos will soothe the soul, probably.
Oh, yeah. Google cats and cucumbers. You'll get a good laugh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your insight on that, because that was a question that I had been sitting on for a couple of days now. So,
no, it's a landmine. It's a landmine field of Facebook kids. Be careful.
So let's talk about the Big Brother program. Will, do you want to kind of start us off? Tell us, give us maybe not an elevator speech, but in your own words, a crash course.
Well, I think where it came from, it might be a good place to kind of start. We at 148 have a certain online presence that is, and a position presence in Fort Worth. We were part of the Temple downtown. That is a building that is seen by a lot of people. It's right off the freeway. People see the building all the time, wonder what it is. There's a big sign out front that says Masonic Temple, and it sparks a lot of interest. So in that process, and those candidates that come through, and other people being interested in masonry and things of that sort, eventually they get through and they become EAs, and they continue on this path of masonry. And through this process, for Texas, the entered apprentice is the bearer of burden. He has got a lot on his plate, and it is something that can definitely be overwhelming to someone that's coming into to the craft. For me personally, I kind of just went through the motions through school. It wasn't too much. I didn't really feel like I had to do too hard, and wasn't motivated really to do too hard. But when I got into the work in masonry, it was really one of the first times that I was academically challenged and frustrated, and just completely tried, and moving forward in that. And it spoke to me in so many ways. I was so motivated to keep going just because of what it said and how it spoke to me. But for others, I could see with some people that I was around that it was something that just didn't quite keep them motivated. The work itself, there was something else that they're needing to kind of keep them acclimated and keep them charged up to continue through this. And at the time, really, you met with instructors, you worked on these questions and answers, and you came to lodge on Mondays, and that was kind of the extent of your EA experience until you moved on. But since then, we've implemented this Big Brother program to where we're linked up these EAs with Master Masons in the lodge, and there are a vast amount of information that Brother Rhit, Brother Gabe, and several others got together and put in a format that is kind of a stair-stepping deal on your journey through through really Freemasonry in general, but a lot of the things that you kind of come through, what 3 gravels means, really kind of digging into depth about, your working tools and things of this sort. But it's just an opportunity to where you're meeting with someone, and those forms and those things that we came up that they did for us are they're not a checklist that you have to do. And if you don't succeed, you don't get done, but it's just it's a wealth of knowledge that you're able to go to and to have a discussion with your little brother, big brother, whatever, your brother. It's an opportunity, and we keep up with one another throughout the week. We try to do things, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, schedules permitting. But it was just an opportunity for you to meet with someone else outside the lodge, and it wasn't just questions and answers. It wasn't just back to this work, this load of stuff that you knew was kind of hanging over you to get done. Where everyone's wondering, how's your work coming? How's your work coming? Now you had the opportunity to meet and go have dinner with somebody, come over to the house, hang out for a little bit. It didn't even necessarily have to be Masonically focused. It was just an opportunity to let that person know that, you're valued. We understand that this is an undertaking. We understand that you're going to do it at your pace, and we want to support you in that venture. And we're here to help you in any way we can. And it's definitely a program that's still in its infancy. It just started this year. It's something that this class of EAs and fellow crafts coming through are going to have a lot of input on moving forward, and how they're going to relate to their little brothers when they're in positions that, these next guys coming through are going to be in. And it's something that right now is really fluid, and I don't see that really as a bad thing. It's the fact that we have done something. You hear that a lot, especially with the past Grandmaster that was there. He said, well, on his talking about, getting the guys in to do your, to get your 3 degrees in a day, well, at least it's something, type of mentality. But it's something that we're trying to do to keep, people motivated and to give them the opportunity to link up outside the lodge. And for me personally, it's been fun to watch other brothers and their big brothers, and to hear about them getting together and things. Me personally, I haven't had the opportunity to meet an awful lot with my little brother, but I still check in with them on the phone. I'm able to do a little bit here and there, just kind of because of our schedules and things. But sometimes that's all it takes for a guy, is to let to just checking in on him. And this is kind of a formal setting to where you take that responsibility upon, yourself, because you're kind of called to do so in this position. You've been handed, something that's semi-formal, and to perpetuate that and kind of continue that through, and to just help these guys in this process, because it is an undertaking. It is something that you've got to put the time in. And if you don't, you tend to, kind of let it run. And this is an opportunity for you to stand in and to be there kind of with them as they go through it, and, and let them know that, man, you're doing good, to give them a little positive feedback on their journey, and not just let them get caught up kind of how I was, where it's just, you're so frustrated with yourself because you know it, but you don't know it exactly. And, you have to know it exactly in order to do it. And just all of the frustrations involved with that. But don't know exactly if that's answered your question, if that was the kind of the intro to it you wanted or not.
I think that was a pretty good summary of what's been going on. You're spot on. And what's kind of interesting is that a lot of stuff that we've been doing since we started the Big Brother program is stuff that, if we're going to call ourselves a fraternity, it's stuff that we should have been doing all the time. It's stuff that everybody should be doing, but that you don't really see that often, so.
And it's something that it's happened with another thing that we're doing, those Master Mason nights. And it's really kind of added a sense of, I've got to take care of myself, and I've got to understand this in my own deal, because now I've got somebody that I've got to be reaching out to. They're going to have questions. I'm going to be their point of contact in this journey, and I've got to be prepared myself. And it's another opportunity for that growth, that discussion, and for you, and just gathering and getting light from those that can offer it and can help you, grow in that process. And I think that Master Masons night for us has gone hand in hand with this. And I think really in itself, it's all the same program. You're helping these big brothers get in a better position to be able to handle the littles, but it's just an opportunity, like I say, to further this thing and maybe a little bit less of a formal, intimidating kind of setting.
Yeah, you get a lot more productivity done when you're comfortable, so that's one of the things. You just get those creative juices flowing. So Rhit, what would you say that kind of led you to start digging up stuff for the Big Brother program?
It basically boiled down to the fact that, we needed a mentor program, because, the Big Brother program, it's our name for our mentor program. And every lodge should do their own version, package it their own way, make it their own, so there's more buy-in. But we waited too long to implement it, because when we implemented it, I think we had 10 or 12 EAs, and it was like, whoa, we've got to put something together to help slow this process down to where it's not just learn your memory work, you move on. Get them more ready to be a Master Mason and enjoy the process. And, as good as we were at keeping in contact with them, there were guys that were still, falling through the cracks to where they were still coming to lodge, but nobody was in contact with them directly. We'd see them on Facebook or whatever, but there was no direct, hey, how you doing?
Which that's
kind of stuff.
Sometimes, you've got to feel super isolated if that's your only interaction is lodge-based stuff.
Yeah. I mean, because, there's been many mentor programs out there that are great. The LAMP program we've spoke about on another podcast. It's out there. I think it's on the Grand Lodge website, or you can get it from Grand Lodge. There's great things to go by in there, but I highly recommend sitting down and making your own version of your mentor program, because a lot of lodges have traditions. Like on our first sheet, we'll talked about it, where we talk about the gavels and breaking light. And a lot of lodges do that after degrees, like they'll give them the lowdown directly after, maybe after an EA or master's or whatever. And we work that into our Big Brother program. So you may need to do different things. So you just kind of sit down, because, there should be more to being an EA than just memorizing. Although that's the bulk of their focus, if that's it, there's not a lot of value in there.
Yeah, and that there is so much more to it. That they are being handed all of these raw materials for this project, and to understand, that position, that you're at the base of this huge undertaking, and to really kind of savor that moment. You talk about your FCs and how with the way Texas is set up, that barrier of burden, you've got so much work to get done in that EA that you get to the fellowcraft, which is really kind of the meat and bones of this journey. And 2 weeks later, you're done.
Yeah, because it only took, and of course we totally ignore the fellowcraft.
And it only took 2 weeks to do it because you have to wait 2 weeks. It could have happened, later on that week.
Yeah, no. Jurisdictions where you have to do memory work and there's no waiting period. There's brothers that learn the work within like 3 days and then get raised.
And the whole thing, really, as I look, because I started it just for candidates coming in to build value and enrich their experience, but I saw something come out of it that I wasn't expecting, and that was accountability for us to each other, because we all feel accountable to each other to stay in contact with our little brothers, because we talk about it at that master's night. So everybody wants to be able to say they've contacted them a few times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
not in like a calling someone out type of fashion, or I've been with my brother, more than you type of way. But like you say, just that is being done. It's something that we are doing.
It's
together.
Foxhole mentality. Yeah, it's the foxhole mentality. He's there, so I'm there. And then eventually you start getting something out of it, because you see that little brother grow into a master mason that's enjoying his journey, and he takes off, and he'll always remember that bond you built with him. Outside of just helping with work, you're actually developing a friendship. It's just inevitable if you follow that Big Brother program, because if you break it down into 2 words, it is based on communicating and accountability. And accountability just came into the equation without me even thinking about it, to where when a lodge is functioning right, we should be holding each other accountable on a lot of different things, not just the Big Brother program. But if the environment's not there and it's vitriolic, you're out of there. You're not becoming a better man. You're getting upset. You're feeling belittled, to where when guys tell me they hadn't been in contact with their little brother, the last thing that crosses my mind is that they're slacking at their job, because first of all, they're a volunteer. Second of all, we know how tough that can be. But I know in my heart that he's trying, and he's going to keep trying. So there's not an issue with, that judgment. It's just it's a weird foxhole accountability, that came out of that whole program. So that's why it's important to develop something, put it on paper, present it to lodge, have a discussion, and vote on it. Make it part of your rules that you do it. You
don't have to make, and like Brother Roberto Sanchez brought up when he came to speak to us, your lodge rules do not have to be bylaws. So that's something very worthwhile to remember. If you want to make a change in your lodge for that year, the worshipful master can make a rule, and that's fine. He can. There's a process for it. He suggests it. It gets voted in, and with the understanding that it's only for his year, and the next worshipful can accept that as well. But it's a lot easier.
And before I speak out of turn, check your Grand Lodge law. Because you're going to have to if you're voting in rules and regulations, because we're obligated to follow rules and regulations of our lodge. But once they're voted in and approved by the lodge, I'm pretty sure they're there until they're voted down.
He mentioned something
that's an edict.
That is, the edict is what the Grand Master does, right?
Yes, and a worshipful master can put out an edict.
Right, but I thought that was like, okay, I might be misremembering it.
And I may be talking out of turn, but I'm pretty sure. And most bylaws have instructions on how to add rules as well. Some of them do anyway. I think ours does. But it is separate from your bylaws, and you can, as long as they don't conflict with Grand Lodge law, you can add those in, and they don't have to be approved by Grand Lodge. But I don't think they fall off. We need to look into that, because we're about to add a lot of rules to our.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to do. I think there's a lot of benefit to saying, hey, we have to do this, and it's not going to be a permanent thing or anything like that, but we're just going to start doing stuff with the understanding that we are doing this for the improvement. And if it works this year, then we'll do it next year. If it doesn't work this year, then we won't.
That's important to keep in mind, because you've got to start something somewhere. Don't overthink this program. Put something on paper and know that it is a living document that will evolve as you see what works and what doesn't. We've already made several changes to the program. And I just put something on paper, and Will said it earlier, not so you have to check off the list. Because if you don't need the list, great. If you can, just tell him and interact without the list, great. But it's always there for you to go back to, because like we broke it down to where the EA has 7 forms, which essentially means you have to have 7 interactions and explain, like the first one is talk about memory work and ease the candidate, take questions, but don't work on the memory work. Talk about visiting and being tried. Schedule a visit to another lodge that you can go to him with. So it's just a bunch of ideas and things to explain. Protocol and lodge for gavels, titles, speaking, breaking light, officer duties, and ways he can contribute. I think the EAs are told to just focus on their work too much, when they could be contributing to the lodge in some way or another. But EA has 7, Fellowcraft has 5 forms that they fill out, 5 interactions, and Master Mason has 3 interactions. Don't know where I got the 3, 5, and 7, but I figured that was fitting.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It just came to me.
And we had like when we first came out with it, each degree presents a paper or does a video, has some kind of short explanation of some kind of Masonic tie, and that's one of the things we changed to where the EA no longer does that. Has time to get to know, because if we're following the ritual, EA shouldn't be doing a whole lot but learning at this point. And then as a Fellowcraft, he can start to express himself. So we have them present something, then same thing as a Master Mason. That way they get vested in it a little bit, and it creates that bond, because the main purpose of that big brother is to get to know that candidate, start building that trust to where that new brother feels a part of the lodge. So when he hits the ground as a Master Mason, he's already been a member of a committee, helped out with something going on at lodge. He's already spoke and stated meetings the proper way, feels comfortable doing it. He might have even been on what we call junior investigators at 148, to where they just go and sit on an investigation just to watch how it goes. Goes with one of the team members. Exactly. So by the time he's raised his first stated meeting as a Master Mason, he needs to investigate somebody. He feels confident do it, and you feel confident letting him. He's a working member of that lodge. Not to mention all the value built on the way, coming up, that he gave to the lodge and he got from the lodge. Heston's a good example.
And that preparedness in that, like we talked about, that Master Masons for us right now, with it happen kind of side by side with this program, we're bettering ourselves in this time, and for them to kind of come up and go through it, and then when it passes, when the guard changes and they are taking on their own little brothers and things of that sort, they're invested in it because they've gone through it, and it's something that just dominoes.
You got it. And you even alluded to it earlier, that the big brother is getting value now because he's been called on by his lodge to raise a little brother and bring him more light in his journey. So you feel like you are a needed, active member of your lodge. And every active Master Mason in our lodge has a little brother. We've got 12 VAs and Fellowcrafts. Yeah. And I know, even me, I can take myself back to the moment, those first 10 meetings after I was made an entered apprentice, and how, I don't want to necessarily say uncomfortable, but just how in the dark I felt. It's just it's a weird feeling, and you can remember how easy it would be to walk out that door for the last time as an EA and never come back, because that feeling of just uncomfortableness. And it doesn't go away when you have a big brother or a mentor sitting there right beside you, but it certainly soothes it and helps you get over it quicker.
Yeah, it lets you accommodate to it.
You got it.
You know, when you in a discussionary context, when you've been given, okay, when these 3 gavels hit, that's talking to everybody. Everybody's standing up. When when you're given these things on what's going to happen, when they happen, they know it's no longer you're looking around to watch everybody and see what goes on, so you can just kind of fill in. We talked about this.
Yeah, you don't have to play Simon Says.
Yeah.
You got it.
One of the things, you're talking about the being in the dark and feeling in the dark. I am really glad that I never really felt that way. There were times when I was confused, but I don't think that I felt that way because I came in before we started implementing the Big Brother, Little Brother program. But by that time, I think people had already kind of gotten on this train of we need to do something about this.
Yeah.
So that, and I harassed everybody that I possibly could. What do you think about this? What does this mean? Can you explain this to me?
No,
and just
were not
bothering
shy.
everybody. So it was a combination of the two, but mostly people. I feel like guys in the lodge had already kind of figured out we need to be really engaging with people now. So
it was and is a necessity for us in our particular journey at 148 and what's going on with us at this time and present. And it was something we had to do. It was like we talked. It's a relevant topic. It's a relevant thing that actually has something that needed to be done for it. And we've got the guys in place that could recognize that it was something like that, and we've got the guys that had the zeal to tackle it.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it, because we definitely needed it. It's absolutely correct. But, I can hear a lot of little lodges out there listening to this, members of that, so where it's like, well, that's great. We have a candidate once a year if we're lucky. And that's the perfect time to sit down and do it. Think back to your journey. How could you have added value? What did you want? And get a group of guys putting that together so it's already implemented and in place. So when that new candidate comes in the door, you have the go by to where you got to walk up to that candidate and go, new brother so-and-so, meet your big brother, Paul Mason, whoever. And he knows that's the guy he can contact. You tell him, I'll trade information, and tell him how the program works to where he's actually assigned somebody. That takes a lot of weight off of his shoulders. Even though we all have that feeling, he can call any of us anytime. You can tell him that till you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
But there's something different about, hey, this guy is assigned to you to take care of you and answer all your questions. Call him day or night. He may not answer that moment, but leave him a message. He'll get back to you. But this is the guy. And certainly don't tell him, don't contact anybody else, but it conveys a sense to that new brother, and relief that, hey, I'm not going to be bothering this guy by calling me. That's his duty.
And you're still taking that, those things that were instilled in the degree, and you're taking it into the outside of it, to where this is still focused on you. I still have my own personal journey, but we understand that you are in a position in this journey that you need this guidance. You are in this position that it takes some instruction for you to further, and it fits right into those precepts and those concepts that were instilled in that degree. You standing in and you helping this brother through on his way to further and more light.
Yeah, I mean, he's drawn to us because everything he knows about the fraternity is awesome and great, and Grandpa was, and he was a great man, and Ben Franklin, and they come here and they see hopefully good ritual work, and they're just like, these guys memorized all that, and there's such an intimidation factor there, to where they feel like they might ask a dumb question. So you got to make sure they know you got a question. Ask this guy. No dumb, no question too big, too small. Fire away.
And you talked about that intimidation factor. They get done with that EA, and you are a Mason. They're told this. You are a Mason. You can go to any lodge now. You are. But in you've only gone through this degree. In your own mind, you're still not quite. There's still something they're missing. There's still there's still that intimidation factor, and being able to have something set up in a way that recognizes that and is still catering to that person and allows it, like you say, to just be. It's still going to be intimidating. You're still going to have those feelings that come with just being confused and not knowing it, because you don't. But these guys are invested in you and in the process that you're in, and I think that helps.
No, I mean, there's no doubt. It is an intimidating mountain that they have to climb. I don't know if y'all know this, but I was at Grand Lodge when they took a vote to shorten it to just the first section for the EA. And I don't remember who said it, but they said we have the longest catechism in the world for memory work for our candidates. It's the truth.
But the longest?
The longest.
Maybe.
85 questions for the EA. That's what they said. I've never looked it up and I
think it's 86,
verified it.
Yeah. Of course, now somebody's going to count them and prove us both wrong. But
yeah, no, I've been told the word count before too, and but
I had the word count at one point. I had the word count at one point because I set up a evaluation sheet that it doesn't have any of the words in it or anything like that, but I literally just counted the number of words in each sentence and whether or not that was correct. And
okay, that's Rain Man stuff. About $100.
You're not wrong. Let me see if I can find it, because it was ridiculous.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, Sonic. It's like in a folder. So, based off of what I have here, plus or minus a few words, the EA Catechism in just answers is 2,687 words.
What?
Just the answers?
Just answers.
It's crazy.
So that's not counting, questions.
Wow.
And the questions are not the same length as the answers. So a lot of them are very short. So I would imagine maybe add 2/3 of that. So
yeah,
I don't know. I would say if you include the answers, then maybe 4,500 words, but you don't have to learn the questions. So yeah, we're expecting the candidate to learn a lot of stuff. And is that detrimental? Some people might argue that, and I don't blame them for arguing that. So,
but I mean, we talk all the time about the value, and you just talking about those 2,000 and however many words, that's pretty valuable to me. I've gone through that. I know those 2,000 and something words. They're in there somewhere, and that pride, that value that you've got in that journey, being that bearer of burden, it was a task. It was hard. And to now have that completed structure, that full project done and behind me, is still, it's so powerful, and I think that's why, that Master Mason in a Day thing didn't pass, is because it's still valuable to a lot of the people in the Grand Lodge of Texas.
No, you're right. I mean, it's ingrained in our Masonic. Sure. And I used to be pretty staunch about it, but have come very open-minded, after learning that retention for the guys who get all 3 degrees in one day compared to like who go through it like us here in Texas, the retention rate's almost exactly the same. So that's when I was like, there's more to it, and I always knew the Q&A didn't make the Mason. The memory work certainly doesn't. But we do miss out on a lot of opportunities for good men because of those questions and answers. But at the same time, they sure are loaded with value. So, I don't want to see them go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and I suppose that the questions and answers are, like, in the context of your grand jurisdiction and I guess your philosophy as a lodge, the questions and answers become more or less important depending on how much you value esotericism and ritual. Because by making them memorize this stuff, you can take a guy who is good at memorizing stuff and make him great at memorizing stuff. Or you can turn a guy who can't memorize stuff and make him into a very proficient ritualist. Because ritual, ritual is not just memorization, but the fundamental aspect of ritual is remembering the ritual. So it's a way of building ritualists. And there is a lot of meaning in those questions and answers, that you start looking for stuff and you start asking questions and you start finding very strange answers. And there's a point to that. So maybe if your grand jurisdiction places more emphasis on service and on fraternal activities and stuff like that than they do on esotericism and ritual, and I might just be totally off base with that statement, but it just kind of depends on, hey, where do we balance this? As somebody who is very biased towards esoteric studies and primarily ritual, I don't want to see the questions and answers going anywhere, just because that's a great tool to train ritualists. Not everybody has to be a ritualist, but it helps, in my opinion, helps enhance the lodge.
No, I mean, if we're talking about in Masonry, our job is to spread light. What light's knowledge, right? And you acquire knowledge through your brain. And what better way to exercise your brain and make it more powerful than memorizing things? So I don't care if you memorize row your boat or if you memorize Masonic catechisms. The act of memorizing something is like bicep curls for your brain.
Yeah.
It's only going to make it that much more powerful and in tune with what you're doing. So there is so much value aside from just the esoteric rabbit holes, which absolutely it's wrought with. But the art of memory, there's a lot of value to it, aside from just teaching the candidate why he's dressed the way he's dressed, why he walks the way he walks, kind of thing.
Yeah, what you get from it, and what you're able to take, like you say, just because of that muscle memory that's happening within your brain. I mean, you said it.
Yeah, because I mean the rabbit holes. Because I heard the Fellowcraft lecture, 50, 60 times before I memorized it, and while I was memorizing it, I was on the Google nonstop, because there was so much information, so many rabbit holes to chase. But all the while in the background, my brain is being worked out by the memory work, and
I'm trying to figure out where I left my monitor because I wanted to pull something up about the Fellowcraft. But yeah, the Fellowcraft, if you look at it, it is the fundamental guideline to what a classical education prior to the widespread establishment of public school would have been. So you look at that and you go, this is how you take a kid and teach them everything they would ever need to know, at least at that time. So the Fellowcraft degree is one of the coolest things ever because it is a teaching manual for either somebody who wants to teach themselves or for somebody who is going to go teach others. So that's one of the neat things about that, hey, you know, we can see why Masonry often tends to get tangled up with education in the formal sense of starting public schools and universities and things like that, because one of our degrees is all about education and learning and how to do that. So,
yeah.
And like I say, that ties right into this Big Brother program that, you know, that's been our topic for the evening. We are aware of what these things that are in there, and we want these guys that are taking this step to stay motivated, to get to these points and to be able to reap the benefits of just that muscle memory work of, you know, what you're going to be able to get out of this from just a memory standpoint, your brain capacity, your focus, you know, that type of deal. But the esoteric meaning to things, the stuff that's instilled in there, the lessons that are taught, but then, you know, the project in itself, and you're taking them and stepping them into that role of now a big brother that's going to have to take on and lead the way for another coming through. It's tied into this thing called Masonry. It's tied into what we're doing, and it's just another outlet for us to be able to do what we do. And for us personally in this moment, it's a little bit of a less formal situation, but I think that's a great thing for us, is because it does take a little bit of that intimidation factor out of it, but still lets it ring on how important it is to us as individuals that are invested in this, and how important it is in that brother's life that's coming through, and how valuable this can be to him, and how valuable it will be to him.
Yeah. No, and it's all stuff you need to tell your little brother or your mentee, so they understand the full scope of that memory work, and it's not just a roadblock, you know, it's not something they do and move on. There's this very important stuff, because, you know, you're going to learn the basics of Freemasonry, especially in the questions and answers of the Entered Apprentice. And a good chunk of it's going to help you with the ritual work, because it's used in the actual ritual.
Right. Setting you up to be able to participate. Yeah.
You got it. And then if nothing else, you know, like Gabe said, it sets you up in the rhythm to learn to be a ritualist, you know, because now you've got the flow for playing a worshipful master in a degree or senior deacon from the Q&A. You've learned the cadence and because let's face it, nobody talks the way those questions and answers come out. You know, it's almost what doth Romeo?
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of the things that I knew that I was going to get along great with my girlfriend when she won one of our very first states. I mentioned, yeah, you know, there's a lot of memory work involved in, you know, what I'm doing right now, and she's just boom started busting out Shakespeare. She's memorized, you know, whole chapters of that stuff, and I went, okay, awesome. She gets it. So, yeah.
It's important. No, and you know, that's the thing, is that the mentor program, it is one of the most important things the lodge can have in place. And, you know, like I said earlier, even if you're that small lodge that doesn't have a whole lot of candidates or doesn't do a whole lot of degree work, it doesn't matter. Put it in place. You know, if you hadn't done a degree in 4 years, that might be different. But, you know, if you have candidates that come through your lodge at, you know, every 6 months or so, have that in place. You know, the new Master Mason that comes up, you hand him the sheets that you have for the Big Brother or mentor program you put in place, and he has his go by until he develops his own style. And after about his fourth Big Brother, he doesn't need the program. You know, he's got it almost memorized.
Yeah.
But that culture gets put into place, and the program just happens naturally. You just have to assign people to people. That's all. You know, ever who you put in charge of that, which we chose the Junior Warden to kind of head that up.
But like I said, we've got so many people that are so invested and so involved that it wasn't hard.
No, you just match people up.
And had the help from our viewing audience tonight. Shout out.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that, I'll freely admit to saying that I needed to meet more often with my little brother, and just things did not work out on my end, primarily because I left my 24-inch gauge buried at the brow of a hill somewhere. So, and while I was busy memorizing a whole bunch of other stuff, I kind of didn't meet with him as often as I should have, but he ended up doing really, really well regardless, because it was just that initial spark of, lighting that fire and getting back into learning the work and getting to meet with him for lunch and stuff, and it was a fantastic experience. And, now we hang out in groups and everything like that together. That's one of the awesome things about doing stuff like going over to Rhit's place or whatever, or hanging out with everybody for lunch.
Family day. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's coming up.
When you're doing the lunch, right, that gets organized. We have a lunch that we meet about once a month, and it's great. It's just fraternity. We're not necessarily talking about lodge or anything like that, but it's that support network that really helps.
That's what gives the guys the ability to make lodge their own. Because once they're an EA, they're a brother. They can be buried as a Mason. You're essentially a Mason for life once you're an EA.
Right.
So, you really got to nourish them to make them know that it's their lodge, and those things like that can do that. So when stated meeting comes up and an issue pops up that they have experience with, they don't feel like they shouldn't get up and talk about it. They can't vote on issues, but they can certainly add their input. They're grown men, and they have a lot to add. So don't ever let them feel like that they're not a part of this lodge. They will eventually be a voting member, but everything they're being voted on at that moment will affect him, because he is essentially a member of your lodge as an entered apprentice.
And I remember standing up in a stating meeting and asking some very pointed questions to an issue that I thought was needing, it was an issue that was brought up, and it was something that was going to be proposed and voted on that involved a substantial amount of money. And I, even as a Fellcraft, you can stand up in lodge and talk. And so I stood up in lodge and I asked some very directed questions about this issue that I felt would help make it clear that I thought it, I didn't want to say, hey, this is a bad idea. But by asking those questions and not receiving, I guess, suitable answers, it was kind of clear what I was getting at.
And it opens the door for us to go another way, and it's perfect. I'd mentioned Heston, but I didn't get to finish earlier, to where we'd planned our golf tournament, and we'd been talking about it for months, just kind of mulling over how this works, what we could do. We talk about it in a stated meeting. Heston hops up and says, I'd love to help with it, who was a brand new entered apprentice.
That was maybe his first stated meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he's hosted like 27 of them and knows exactly how to line it all out and everything. And he had the courage to stand up and say, hey, I'll be a part of that. And it was just like, bells and whistles went off in my head. It's like, this is how it has to be. You got to draw on these guys. That way you don't have to rush them through the whole process, and they're still involved in the lodge.
And you've got to set that culture and that environment to where they know they can. They know they can stand up and get that input.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
Well, and it's important to remember, going back to our origins as operative Masons, there's a reason why we call them entered apprentices and fellows of the craft. In some jurisdictions they're not called fellcrafts, they're called journeymen. But because they're still learning, they're still not masters, and they need that opportunity. And part of learning in a guild system, as somebody who is not a master in that guild, you learned by learning from a master. It's an apprenticeship system. And there's a great quote from the late and great Terry Pratchett in one of his Discworld books. It's from Going Postal. And it involves fraternal organizations. And it's just a one sentence long. It's mysticism for tradesmen. Because that's all we are. We're just tradesmen. We're regular dudes that we have regular jobs, and we're just trying to learn these mystic arts, so to speak. And
earn our master's wages.
We're just adapting it to the speculative context. So we need to remember our operative origins and say, hey, no, this is a true apprenticeship system where people need to be assigned to a master in order to learn under that apprenticeship system.
Yeah. So it is crucial. You put something in place that everybody's on board. And if you the culture of your lodge, sit down and put something to paper. It doesn't have to be 15 long like ours. It could just be a little handbook, just something for the master mason to go by for the little brother, to where you're all on the same page. And let it grow. Change it. As soon as you find a weak spot in it, change it. But
it doesn't have to be necessarily perfect to begin with.
That's
don't
the
let
thing.
it become a point of division or another thing that you're trying to get right.
Think of it this way: if Henry Ford would have waited to roll out the first car until he made the Mustang, we'd have been waiting forever for the car. Just get something out there, and
we never would have gotten it. It's
you
just
got
one
it.
of those things, because you have to start with the basics, and you come out with things that are serviceable, maybe not brilliant, but maybe even through being serviceable are kind of groundbreaking.
Put some wheels on it and get it rolling.
You can get it in any color you want, as long as it's black.
Yep.
You don't overthink it. That is exactly. Put it together, and then next month add the horn. Next month add the headlights. Whatever you find that's lacking, or maybe you need to take that silly thing off that you put on there that didn't seem to work. But just put something in place, because the mentorship really adds value. Will asked on the Facebook page, and we've talked to him many times throughout while this was going on, how's it going? And nobody had anything but great things to say about the program. And the cool thing about it is we asked them at Lodge, because they were there. We weren't losing them.
We asked them at Lodge. They were there. Exactly, man.
So, no doubt you should have a good program.
Yeah, that should be, if you are looking for something to make a difference into your lodge, if you feel like your lodge is struggling, or even if you feel like your lodge is doing really well, implement a program like the Big Brother program regardless. You can be doing terribly, you can be doing brilliantly. Just implement that. I don't think that there is a way that the Big Brother program will be a detriment to the lodge.
No, and I love that we keep calling it Big Brother program, and it's just our name for a mentor program. So Google mentor.
Really, it's all about the little brothers, but still.
Yeah. And you can put something together real quick. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can use the LAMP program. But it's all about communication anyway. So, figure out who will work best with who and make it happen. Will add value for sure. So, anybody else got anything to say about the Big Brother program before we drone on all night?
Yeah, guys.
I was going to say, I don't have a problem with sharing this with anybody that wanted, it's 16 different Word documents. If you want me to email it to you, hit us up, info148 at fortworth148.org.
We're also on Facebook, so find us there.
Yeah, and I don't mind emailing it to you. You can use it as is, tweak it all you want. It's very basic anyways. So,
but it's packed full of valuable information and exercises. It really is, you guys.
It's a good starting point for sure. So, what do we got next? Is it events?
Alrighty, let's talk events. So in Texas, Lufkin Lodge 669 is collecting donation items for the Texas Masonic Retirement Center. They'll be collecting clothing, personal items, movies, and medical equipment. They're looking for personal care items like toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, body wash, shaving items, and beauty products. They're also looking for puzzles, playing cards, and games, especially large print items like crossword puzzle books, that kind of thing. Books, music, movies, they're also really appreciated. And if you've got clothing and shoes, please make sure that those are new or gently used. If you've got walkers, wheelchairs, IV stands, boots, that kind of thing, if they're in good condition and you don't need them anymore, please consider donating those too. So please reach out to Lufkin Lodge 669. On May 6th, Chalk Mountain Lodge 894 is holding a fish fry fundraiser from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for children 10 years or under. All proceeds are going to the Chalk Mountain Lodge Charitable Works Fund. If you want to join them, the event is happening at 244 South Columbia in Stephenville. On May 6th, Katy Masonic Lodge 1439 is hosting their 29th annual fish fry and auction. This will take place on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Katy Elks Lodge 2628 on 1050 Katy Fort Bend Road, Katy, Texas. Plates are $12 for adults and $6 for those under the age of 6. Adult tickets can be purchased at katymasoniclodge.com. That's Katy, Katy. On May 13th, the Rainbow Girls from Austin Assembly No. 5 are putting on a Saturday evening casino night fundraiser at the Camp Mabry Museum. It starts at 6:30 p.m. and goes till 9 p.m. Tickets are $25 per person, and there will be blackjack, roulette, craps, and a dessert bar. If you want to help sponsor this or buy tickets in advance, please call them at 512-217-4064 or email them at austinassembly5@gmail.com. According to the information I have, they are a 501c3, so don't hesitate if you're thinking about sponsoring this event. In North Texas and Tarrant County and surrounding area, on May 6th, the Hella Potentates Golf Tournament will be on Saturday at the Mesquite Golf Course. Look for them at 825 West I-30 in Mesquite, Texas. Registration is at 7 a.m. and the start is at 8 a.m. Registration is $100 per player, and they'll be using his 4-man scramble format. Mulligans are $5 each for a maximum of 2, and lunch is provided to all players. There will be awards for the first and second place teams, and there is a longest drive contest and a closest to the pin challenge. If you need to, please reach out to John Crodel at 214-762-6077. And I apologize for John for probably butchering his last name. On May 8th, Arlington Lodge 438 is hosting a scholarship fundraiser golf tournament on Monday. So the shotgun start is at 9 a.m., so be there at 8 to register. Entry is $100 per person, which includes a raffle ticket and golf cart rentals. This is happening at the Shady Valley Country Club at 4001 West Park Road Drive in Arlington, Texas. Do you think you can be the Grand Lodge's scramble team? That's right. Most Worshipful Jared Kirby is going to be playing with his team at a tournament. So for more details, call Arlington Lodge 438 at 817-274-7591. We've got 2 master's degrees coming up. On May 11th, Hearst Lodge 1387 will be having a master's degree at 6:30 p.m. On May 11th, at Crowley Lodge 1437, they'll also be having a master's degree, and that's at 7 p.m. So pick one of the 2, Hearst or Crowley Lodge, whichever one's closest to you, and go to that one. On April 13th, Whitewright Lodge 167 will be hosting a big community service event. This is an all-day deal, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They're going to be $5 pancake breakfasts, brisket plates for $10, hot dogs for $5. There's going to be babysitting certifications, CPR certifications, a blood drive, a clothing drive, a food drive, and a bounce house. The fire department and the Red Cross will be there. The CPR courses are $100 for the healthcare provider level and $60 for the non-healthcare provider level. The babysitting certification is $80. And then the event is happening at 101 West Pine in Whitewright, Texas. Check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/Whitewright Masonic Lodge, and that is Rhit is WRIGHT. So, White Rite Masonic Lodge. So, May 20th is going to be a big day. The Oklahoma Indian Degree Team is coming to Garland, Texas. So, the MWSA of Masonic District Number 9 and East Fork Lodge 650 are hosting a Master Mason's degree conferred by the Oklahoma Indian Degree Team. The date is Saturday, May 20th at 1 p.m. following a 11:30 a.m. lunch. And the location is the Black Horse Barn at Hella Shrine at 2121 Rowlett Road in Garland, Texas. So the tickets are $25, and that includes lunch. Seating is limited to 500 people, and you can get tickets at eventbrite.com, eventbrite.com. You can check them out at eastforklodge.org/Facebook. The event is open to Master Masons only. You will want to bring your dues card and a photo ID, otherwise you will not be able to get in. You must bring your own apron, and I believe they are also encouraging people to bring folding chairs. For more info, call 972-670-6758 or 214-533-5659. And I'm going, and a bunch of brothers from Fort Worth Lodge are going. Obviously, a bunch of people from the DFW are going to go, so it's going to be a great place to meet new friends and brothers. It'll be great. On May 23rd, Ken Curry is receiving his Golden Trowel Award at Hanley Lodge 1140. The event starts at 6 p.m. and it's located at 2501 Pollard Street in Fort Worth. So if you have some free time at 6 p.m. on May 23rd, come, help congratulate Ken and help honor his service. On June 23rd, Bolivar Masonic Lodge is hosting their third annual clay shoot. Registration is at 8 a.m. and the start is at 9 a.m. The location is Fossil Point Sporting Grounds at 7282 North Farm Road 51, Decatur, Texas. The event will be organized into 4-person teams at $100 a person. Lunch is provided. There will be trophy belt buckles for the highest overall team score and the highest overall individual score. First, second, and third place teams will receive trophies. Station sponsorship fees are $150 per station, so if you're interested in that, reach out to Bolivar Masonic Lodge. And ear and eye pro are required, and you must bring your own ammo. So now there is a registration form that you'll need to be filling out, so you'll want to get in contact with them. You can find them on Facebook. They are Bolivar Masonic Lodge 418 on Facebook, and I believe their phone number is 940-458-7565. So reach out to them, try and get a registration form for that, and send it in before May 23rd, I think. So at the Temple, 1100 Henderson Street in Fort Worth, we're hosting a blood drive on May 7th. So that's going to be at the Premier Gun Shows. That's Sunday, May 7th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we'll be at the Amon Carter Exhibit Hall in the Will Rogers Center. That's located at 3401 Burnett Tandy Drive, and the station will be in the Carter Blood Care Bus. As always, Fort Worth 148 meets on the second Monday of each month, starting dinner at 6 p.m. for a 7 p.m. stated meeting at 1100 Henderson Street in Fort Worth, Texas. We would love to have you come visit. We love visitors, so please join us. This episode's quote is from Worshipful Brother Benjamin Franklin. "Tell me and I forget. Teach me, and I may remember. Involve me, and I learn." As always, if you need to reach out to us, please reach us at www.fortworth148.org or at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook or info148@fortworth148.org. If you live in the 64th District of the Grand Lodge of Texas and you want to promote an event, please reach out to them at 64th.org. 64th.org.
Man, I really do appreciate you guys letting me come in. I hope I didn't drone on a lot of that stuff, but you guys, great, like I said, this is excellent. You guys are really doing it. Love to be involved. I love that you guys are involved in as many of us as are taking the time to do it. It's a lot of fun. You guys have got this down. And
Charlotte Brown.
It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful.
Thank you for coming on and sharing light.
This is Rhit Moore signing off.
This is Gabriel Jagush signing off.
This is Wier signing off.